Hello and welcome to the course Developing Soft Skills and Leadership through Indian Knowledge System. In today's lecture, which is titled Respect, Empathy and Social Harmony, we shall reflect on these ideas, particularly in the context of soft skills and leadership as has been expressed in Indian Knowledge System. So let's quickly define what is respect, empathy and social harmony before we begin with the deep deliberation on these terms. So, if you look at respect, that refers to the recognition of the inherent dignity, worth and autonomy of others, guiding individuals to engage with fairness, humility and ethical regard in all interactions. So, that means respect is the one which places more emphasis on the ideas such as dignity, worth and autonomy of others, and therefore it may be translated into engaging with fairness, humility and ethical regard for every kind of interaction. Empathy in a similar manner is the capacity to understand and share the feelings, perspectives and experiences of others, forming the emotional basis for compassion and ethical action. So, we know that empathy is an idea where you are in a position to identify with others, share and understanding the feelings and perspectives and experiences of others. And why? Because it becomes a kind of emotional basis for compassion and ethical action. APA Dictionary of Psychology defines empathy as an understanding a person from their frame of reference rather than one's own, right. So, you rise above your individuality and understand other person's frame of reference. This is how APA Dictionary defines empathy. So, we have a fair understanding of what respect means and what empathy means. So far as social harmony, the third term in today's lecture is concerned, it may be referred to a condition of peaceful, respectful and cooperative coexistence in which individuals and groups work through mutual trust, shared values and inclusive participation. So, we know that social harmony is a condition of peaceful, respectful, cooperative coexistence, right. It is a kind of a state in which different people from different backgrounds live together in a very peaceful, respectful and cooperative manner, right. And this is also a condition in which individuals and groups have certain kind of mutual trust, shared values and inclusive participation, right. In contemporary policy language, the UN Goal 16 frames this as a need to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, right. So far as UN's Sustainable Development Goal 16 is concerned, social harmony is required in order to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. So, what we get out of this is that it promotes peaceful and inclusive coexistence. Social harmony promotes peaceful and inclusive coexistence where people can live together in an inclusive and peaceful manner, and it strengthens mutual trust and cooperation amongst the people who live together, and it also creates a social basis for justice, participation and sustainable development. So, we can imagine that how respect, empathy and social harmony are the basis of what you call soft skills and leadership, right, in the modern times more than others. But they are not limited to what you call modern times, or they have not been identified though promoted in the modern times. They have always been existing if we closely analyze the texts, the knowledge that existed in ancient India, or what I mean is Indian knowledge system, right. So, all these three terms have ever been existing in Indian knowledge system that we have precisely found, and through the course of this lecture today we shall find out how these terms respect, empathy and social harmony has been expressed at time and again in Indian knowledge system. So, if we try to understand these words respect, empathy and social harmony in Indian knowledge system, we would probably find that Indian knowledge system views these values as not merely social ideas, but deeply embedded in the concept of dharma. if we closely analyze this concept of dharma, we find that these values of respect, empathy and social harmony are quite embedded in this particular concept of dharma or one's duty. So, it becomes, what it simply means, that it becomes your duty, your ethical and moral duty to respect others, to have empathy towards others and to establish social harmony, right. So, that is why what dharma identifies, that it identifies respect, or what we call in Hindi samman, which reflects recognition of the divine in all beings. And why should we respect others? Because we think that in every human being divine lives, and this divinity in human being should be respected. And similarly, why should we practice what we call empathy or sahanubhuti towards each and every one? Because it embodies compassion and shared human experience, which is at the core of the concept of dharma. And similarly, the ultimate aim of dharma is lok sangra, or what we call social harmony, samajik samrasata, which ensures collective balance and unity. So, together these aspects, respect, empathy and social harmony, guide an individual towards an ethical living and collective welfare. So, we can imagine a society which is very close to what we call an utopian society and ethical and moral society, if respect, empathy and social harmony are being followed. Let us quickly look at the first aspect of today's lecture, which is called respect in Indian knowledge system, because respect is the one which is an ethical recognition and value centered leadership, right. So, it is an ethical recognition and value centered leadership. If you look at Manusmriti, it has been said in the text that Abhivadan Shilasya Nityam Vriddho Varsevina Chattvaritas Vardhante Ayur Vidya Yasho Balam, means one who is respectful gains longevity, ayu, knowledge, vidya, reputation, yash and strength, that is bal. So, the person who is respectful always have the chance that he would be having longevity of life, lot of knowledge, reputation in the society and strength. So, that means respect in Indian knowledge system transforms one into a moral practice. It is a moral practice. The respect has been said to have been a kind of a moral practice, as has been said, where recognizing the dignity of others becomes the basis of ethical action, right. So, you are performing an ethical action where you are recognizing the dignity of others, and it also makes inclusive decision and sustainable social harmony, right. So, if you are practicing respect, you are not only becoming an ethical person, you are not only maintaining good personal relations in the society, but you are also bringing about the society a kind of an inclusive environment and sustainable social harmony. If you respect each other, or the people of one particular society respect each other, that means society is going to have sustainable harmony for a longer period of time. So, the kind of insight that we derive from this sloka, Abhivadan Shilasya Nityam Vardhopasevina Chattvaritasya Vardhante Ayur Vidya Yasho Balam, is that a lot of emphasis has been placed on the idea of humility as the foundation of leadership growth. So, we know that in Indian knowledge system, respect is the basis of what we call the ethical and moral leadership, and it is quite important for an inclusive and sustainable harmonious society. This has also promoted intergenerational respect in organizations. If we look at in today's context, and if an organization has this respectful environment, particularly towards the elders, it would promote the intergenerational respect in the organization, and probably would bring about a kind of inner strength and discipline, enabling leaders to act with confidence and integrity. This would also create respectful behavior and would cultivate openness to guidance, reduce ego-driven errors in leadership, because this gap would be bridged by what you call the respect. Now, leaders who respect others are more likely to incorporate wisdom and historical insight, leading to well-informed decisions. So, it is going to benefit leaders if they are going to respect others. Now, we also look at Hitopadesha, where respect as the outcome of knowledge. Respect has been presented as the outcome of knowledge. What it says that vidya dadati vinayam, vinaya dayati patratam, patratvat dharmapnoti, dhanat dharma tata sukham. Means the ultimate aim of the knowledge is to become what we call to bring about humility, and humility would lead to worthiness called patratam, and patratam would bring about you some would bring a lot of capital to you, a lot of fortune to you, and fortune would ultimately bring happiness to you. So, you see that there is a very close connection that has been established between respect and knowledge, right. So, ultimate aim of knowledge is to have respect at the first position, vidya dadati vinayam, right. Knowledge gives you humility, right. So, if you are knowledgeable, by default you should be should have humility in yourself, right. So, there is a close link that has been established here in this shloka between respect, or what you call vinaya, with true knowledge. Somebody who has true knowledge has to be quite generous and human. Respect enables worthiness, that is, it gives you patratam, right, and respectful behavior enhances credibility and moral eligibility. And respect as social capital is also being popularized through this shloka, where respect fosters strong relationships and cooperative environments. And finally, respect is not isolated, it contributes to dharma and collective well-being, right. So, what we have learned from this particular lesson is that knowledge should bring about humility. If it's a true knowledge, it would bring about humility, and humility would make you what you call worthy of receiving something, and finally that would result to earn money and to bring ultimate happiness to yourself, and that happiness should not be what you call individual, but it must be related with dharma and collective well-being. Now, further if you look at, we have already had an idea about respect and how it has been expressed in Indian society, how a lot of emphasis has been placed on respect, where respect is being valued in each and every society of India. Now, if we look at empathy in Indian knowledge system, we find that experiencing the other as a self in ethical leadership has been placed in the form of empathy. That means it has been implored to everyone that they must be in a position of experiencing the other as a self. That means in every situation of happiness or sadness, right, or sorrow, they must be in a position to identify themselves or oneself with the other. This is precisely what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita when he says, Atmopayen sarvatra samam pashyati yo arjuna sukham va yadiva dukham sa yogi parmo mata. Means the highest kinds of individuals are those who are in a position to see themselves in others, sharing equally their joy and sorrow, right. That means those people are considered the highest kinds of individuals, most respectful people in the society, who are in a position to identify themselves with other people and share their happiness and sorrows in a similar manner, right. So, that kind of person is a yogi according to Lord Krishna. What we get from this shloka is that it enables empathetic decision making rooted in shared human experiences. That means whenever you have to make a decision, you are not considering what is good for you only as an individual, but you are thinking about an empathetical decision making where you are focusing more emphasis on shared human experiences and how your decision is going to affect others. Similarly, this shloka also makes us understand that it strengthens emotional intelligence in leadership roles. Again, you are in a position to have emotional intelligence at the same time, and also promotes fairness and ethical judgment. That means if you are following empathy or practicing empathy, it's more likely that every judgment that you make would be fair and ethical, and further enhancing conflict resolution through understanding. And probably if you are in a position to understand the other person's perspective, the conflict resolution becomes very easy. So, you rise above from your individuality and identify yourself with other people's understanding, other people's perspective, and therefore, it becomes very easy to resolve conflicts. That precisely we have focused in the previous lecture. And finally, it encourages people-centric and inclusive governance. That means it is not the individual centric or power centric or what we call authoritarian form of government, but it becomes more people centric and inclusive government, because you are thinking about the larger people, the larger good of the larger number. We also have some insights from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, where every emphasis has been placed on the idea of mind, because if a mind has clarity and that clarity is brought about empathy, then probably you are in a position to take right decisions. So, it places more emphasis on what you call the idea of mind's clarity, and how this mind's clarity is achieved. Maitri karuna mudito pekshanam sukha dukha punya 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 apunya vishayanam bhavanataschitta prasadanam. The mind attains clarity through cultivating friendliness, compassion, joy and equanimity towards others, right. So, how you are going to have clarity of mind? If you are keep practicing these ideas such as friendliness, compassion, joy and equanimity towards others, right. So, it is clearly related, your mind's clarity is clearly related with the interpersonal and empathetical relationship with other people, which are friendliness, compassion, joy and equanimity towards others. So, what we learn from this shloka is that how empathy is not a singular, but involves understanding varied emotional states such as joy, suffering, success, failure and responding appropriately. So, empathy is not just one particular emotion, but it is an amalgamation of multiple emotions, varied emotional states. They could be joy, suffering, success and failure, and you must understand these various emotional states and then should respond appropriately and accordingly. We know that empathy may not have a similar kind of respond when somebody is in joy and somebody is in suffering. You have to empathetically respond differently in a moment of joy and in a moment of suffering. So, your mind must have that kind of clarity of emotional states before you respond to somebody's empathetical situation. I hope you are in a position to understand this fact. And then empathy is also expressed through friendliness and compassion, fosters trust and cohesion among individuals. So, if you are in a position to express your empathy through friendliness and compassion, you are in a position to bring about cohesion and trust amongst individuals. And finally, what it talks about is that if the upeksha is included or equanimity is included, it ensures that empathy enables fair and non-reactive decision making, right. So, we see that how empathy is at the center of mind's clarity and how various responses are expected because of mind's clarity, which is achieved through empathetical situations. We have certain examples from Mahabharata as well, where empathy has been said to be the foundation of ethical leadership, right. So, it completely depends that the kind of leadership that you perform, right, and particularly if you look at ethical leadership, it must emerge from the idea of empathy. What it says is that adishta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukh sukh chami. One who has no hatred towards any being, who is friendly and compassionate, free from possessiveness and ego, balanced in joy and sorrow, and forgiving, right. So, that kind of an ethical leadership, the person who is an ethical leader shouldn't have any kind of hatred towards any being, means he must be in a position to empathize with others, right, and for whatever they are, right, you must be in a position to understand their situation, their time and their behavior, right, and you shouldn't be hating somebody for being in a particular situation. And this leader, ethical leader, should always be friendly and compassionate towards everyone, and should also shouldn't have any kind of possessiveness and ego. You shouldn't be concerned with material possessions or a kind of an ego. Rather, he should always be balanced either in joy or sorrow and forgiveness. So, if I closely look at this sentence, we find that what Lord Krishna says is that sthiti pragya, the concept of sthiti pragya in Gita, this person should be sthiti pragya, right, and sthiti pragya is the one who is always balanced either in joy or sorrow or forgiveness, and is not being affected by any kind of situation. He just performs his work, but is not concerned about the result of that particular task that he is performing. He doesn't think about himself, he thinks about the larger good of the larger number. So, what leadership insight that we get from this particular situation here is, particular sloka here is, that empathy is the ethical core of leadership, right. Without empathy, nobody can become an ethical leader. If you are not in a position to identify yourself with other, if you are not in a position to respond people appropriately in their joys and sorrows, you cannot become an ethical leader. It also warns against earth-driven thinking, that means selfish material thinking. So, it warns that one should not be practicing any kind of selfish material gain or that kind of thinking. Rather, empathy should be considered as a deliberate practice, not just an emotion. And it also keeps a check on authority, preventing exploitative and misuse of power, right. Because if you are practicing the situations where you are thinking about the larger good of the larger number, right, you may have a check on your authority, and therefore the exploitation and misuse of power may be prevented. And finally, the decisions that come from this particular situation is the decisions would always be rooted in empathy, may have a long-term trust, harmony and social stability. So, we know that how empathy is at the center of ultimate social harmony and social stability, and that can be achieved through empathetical or ethical leadership. If we look at social harmony, now we are moving towards the third term called social harmony in Indian knowledge system. It talks about it means collective balance and unity in leadership. So, social harmony should always think about collective balance and unity in the entire society. It has been expressed in Maha Upanishad, which states, Ayam nija paroveti gadana laguchetsam udar charitanam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Means the mean people think that this is mine, this is yours. Such thinking is of the narrow-minded. The people who are of mean kind, right, they always think that this is mine, this is yours. They discriminate, right. But the noble people always think that the entire world is one family, the whole world is one family. So, that you can bring about social harmony only when you think that the entire world, the entire society is one unit, where the interests and benefits and goodness of everyone is associated or linked together. So, social harmony in Indian knowledge system always envisions a kind of leadership which is collective moral endeavor, where unity, dialogue and empathy coverage to create inclusive, peaceful and sustainable system of governance and human interaction. So, we know that how social harmony again is at the center of what we call collective moral endeavor, right. So, ultimate aim of leadership or what you call empathy and respect should be to bring about social harmony in society. What leadership insight we have gained from this shloka is that inclusive leadership ethos must expand leadership beyond caste, class or nation. While making a particular decision in society, as an ethical leader, you must think about social harmony only, and therefore you shouldn't be you shouldn't be concerned with what you call discriminatory behaviors based on caste, class or nation. Rather, you should think about the larger world as one particular unit beyond any boundaries, beyond any discrimination. And finally, social harmony is a kind of essential for universal welfare, right. We know that if we think about universal welfare, which is at the crux of the Indian knowledge system, social harmony can bring about that. It recognizes differences while maintaining unity. It does not mean that all of us are the same. Everyone is unique with a particular difference they have, but that difference is not the basis of what you call distinction or differences. Rather, it's let's maintain unity despite these differences, and it promotes fairness and justice for all, because the ultimate aim of social harmony is to bring about fairness and justice to all. And finally, we find that there is an interconnected thinking between the leaders who act and the collective welfare of all. So, there is an interconnected thinking between individuals and the collective or the larger number of people. We also find some kind of references to social harmony existing in Rig Veda, where collaborative culture has been emphasized and popularized. It says, Sangachadvam Samvadadam Samvo Manasi Janatam. That means, let's move together, speak together, let your minds be in harmony. So, how harmony can be established in society has been expressed in this sloka, where it has been implored from all the beings in a society that let's move together, speak together, and let's be harmony in our mind. So, that means it talks about bringing about social harmony based on the similarity of understanding, similar purpose, and what you call prosperity and peace in the society. What we get from this particular shloka is that it encourages shared participation rather than top down authority. Means we know that so far as Sangha is concerned, we know that it does not identify any kind of authority, rather the authority is delegated. It is based on what you call shared participation. In Sangha, everyone is equal, nobody is an authority. Authority is delegated in the Sangha itself, and it also aligns diverse individuals towards common goal. We know that in Sangha, different kinds of people come and participate, but they have common goal. For that they work. And it also talks about bringing about open dialogue, which would reduce misunderstanding and fragmentation. In the situations of conflict or in the situations of misunderstanding and fragmentation, dialogue is being promoted, because dialogue and deliberation and discussion would reduce any kind of misunderstanding and fragmentation. And finally, it would build institutions which are rooted in mutual respect and cooperation. Right? Ultimate aim of Sangha is that mutual respect and cooperation should be built. And finally, it emphasizes communication as the foundation of harmony. Right? That means you must communicate. You must bring about interpersonal relationship within a particular group or society or Sangha, and that would probably be the foundation of what we call harmony. Now, if we look at the educational implications of respect, empathy and social harmony, we find that if we employ these concepts of respect, empathy and social harmony in today's environment, we would be moving towards beyond the content delivery into cultivating ethical sensibilities, where respect and empathy shape classroom interactions, creating safe and inclusive learning spaces. Similarly, it would also develop what we call integrating empathy into pedagogical enhances, how integrating empathy would engage in pedagogical enhancements, which are self-awareness, emotional regulations and interpersonal sensitivity, preparing students for responsible social engagement. And finally, it would promote what you call collaborative and participatory learning, right, where there is no one person important, rather it is a collaborative and participatory learning. And social harmony would encourage dialogue based and cooperative learning models, where students learn to work collectively, respect diverse perspectives and build shared understanding. In the modern organizational context, all these what we call terms and concepts such as respect, empathy and social harmony are going to bring about real changes. If you practice value-centric learning environment, if you promote emotional intelligence, if you promote collaborative and participatory format, probably the modern organizations completely be transformed. It would finally have ethical decision making and critical thinking and formation of responsible and inclusive citizens. So, practicing respect, empathy and social harmony is going to make real changes in the modern times, modern understanding of what you call soft skills and leadership, particularly in the organizational context. Finally, if we try to conclude today's lecture, we would find that respect, empathy and social harmony in Indian knowledge system have together constructed a holistic vision of education and leadership, where knowledge is inseparable from ethical responsibility. We know that these concepts may transform learning into a process of inner refinement and social alignment, ensuring that individuals not only think critically but also act passionately. By embedding these values, modern organizations, education systems may nurture leaders who are morally grounded, emotionally aware and socially responsive, capable of making decisions that balance individual aspirations with collective welfare. Right? So, we know that how each and every term of respect, empathy and social harmony correspond to not only individual aspirations, but they may be related with what you call collective welfare, or a kind of synthesis between individual aspirations and collective welfare may be established. Thank you for listening to me patiently. In case you have any doubts or questions, kindly let me know. Thank you.